For joining me at TechNet Virtual Conference. My name is Joseph Chen, and I'm the Group Program Manager for the Operation Management Suite's Log Analytics Service, as well as the Solution Platform. It's a pleasure to be talking to all of you today about the Microsoft Operation Management Suite and how we can use that to migrate to a world of modern management for the cloud world. So the mission of the OMS team is to help accelerate the transition of the world's IT to modern cloud management. And what that means is getting you to a place where you can seamlessly manage your hybrid environment without any overhead, with very simple solutions that is very easy and quick to adopt. So the idea behind OMS and our founding principle is all about speed, flexibility, and simplicity. When we're talking about speed, it means a couple of things. One is that we want you to be able to onboard to OMS very, very quickly. And I'm talking about minutes. No longer we're talking about taking weeks to onboard your environment. You can onboard hundreds of servers or thousands of servers in hours or even minutes. When we're talking about speed, we're also talking about how fast you can receive new value and innovation. So that includes how quickly and our cadence of delivering new features and capability to you, or fine-tuning existing features where you have given us feedback so that we can add more efficiency, effectiveness to those features so that you can use it in a more productive manner. On the subject of flexibility, what we're talking about there is coming to where you are at, right? In the past, there are a lot of products that forces you to change your process, that forces you to adopt certain base technology before you can actually leverage those tools. With OMS, our founding principle is that we will come to where you are, regardless of which operating environment you are working on, existing tools that you're leveraging, or which cloud you're operating on, whether it's on-premise or in a public cloud, it doesn't matter. We want to come to where you are at. And that's a very important concept around flexibility. And we also want our solutions to be flexible as well. So the solutions that we delivered, we want them to be easily customizable by you, rather than having a fixed set of solutions where you would need to have invest a lot of time and energy and other tooling in order to extend and customize those capabilities. And finally, simplicity. We're not asking you to deploy massive amount of infrastructure to leverage this tool. The overhead is virtually zero. We come to where you're at, and you simply sign up for an account or workspace, and off you go. And once you have the workspace and you're in our environment, the experience is very intuitive. A lot of times you don't even need to rely on documentation in order to get going. So we want to have a very simple, intuitive experience that allows you to get to work very quickly. So what do we mean by hybrid environment? Obviously, we're moving to a world where we are operating with assets that are sitting in multiple places, right? The majority of enterprises today, as you know, still have a lot of assets on premises within your own data center. But a lot of you are exploring public cloud options such as Azure or AWS and starting to migrate some of your assets to those environments. Maybe some of you are tiptoeing in that water and just trying it out, or some of you are making big bets and moving large number of your assets there, or some of you are looking to just use public cloud assets to handle growth. So when you need to you're in burst mode and try to expand your infrastructure for handling, seasonal demand that you may encounter, especially if you're in retailing, for example, right? Public clouds are very attractive options for doing that. So there is the large public cloud like Azure or AWS. There's your on-premise asset, but there could be other third-party, private or third-party clouds that are running elsewhere. And it doesn't matter because of the flexibility that I talked about earlier, right? As a company, we want to enable you to be able to manage any environment and any assets at any time running on any OS. And so this is what we mean by hybrid. We know that the transition is complex. We know that the transition to move to cloud, which is more of a model than a place, requires time, and there will be complexity involved. So being able to design a tool that is built from the ground up to accommodate for that complexity is really important. And that's what OMS is all about. So what does OMS actually provide? Well, first of all, one of the key things that we offer is to integrate with your existing toolings. And one of the best and most popular tooling out there today for management is System Center. You don't have to use Operation Management Suite or OMS with System Center, but if you do have System Center, it is very easy to attach System Center to OMS. And I'm talking about onboarding thousands of servers that you're already managing with System Center to OMS. You can do that in minutes, and it's really, really simple. It's really a better together story on how you can combine the power of big data and cloud compute that we offer from OMS with the customization and the knowledge that you have invested in System Center today to bring you the best of both worlds. So first off, in terms of capability, one of the key fundamental capability that is needed to manage your environment is to gain visibility. You can't take action, you can't plan unless you know what is going on in your environment. So visibility is always the first step and one of the most important steps in your overall system management process. And OMS is really great at that. And we have taken a modern approach on how we go about bringing you visibility. Rather than going with the traditional approach of using workflow type of capability to gather data and putting it into a relational database and showing those data to you in a console, OMS was built from the start with the big data approach in mind. And one of the key foundational service that we have in OMS is the log analytics service, which allows you to ingest massive amounts of machine data, regardless of types or formats and size. You can bring all of that into OMS very easily and slice and dice that data to correlate, combine them to give you just the right amount of visibility and insights very, very quickly. And this service is massively scalable. There are virtually no throughput limits. And we are leveraging the cloud power of Azure. And so from the storage and compute angle, we can just be as elastic as you need us to be. Our entire service is fully automated. So the moment you want to bring us more data, we will basically automatically scale to your demand. And the power of using analytics is that it gives you that customization flexibility that I was talking about earlier. A lot of the management tools in the past really get the 80% or 90% case really well. However, that last 10 to 20% in which you need to customize and yet is crucial to your enterprises in order to fit the unique needs that you have, it doesn't do it really well. But with the big data and log search approach that we offer, that makes it really simple. All of our solutions are built on that foundation so that if you need to customize our solution or really create your own, you can have references to what we're doing very easily and basically build your own in just minutes. And I'll show you in the demo how easy that is in a few moments. Now, once you have the ability to gain visibility over your environment and have insights, then you want to really take control over the environment. When I say control, it means being able to issue commands and to automate actions against a large distributed environment. With a hybrid cloud environment, you got assets all over the place. And we're talking about servers in thousands. And so, the days of remoting in and taking action one by one is really inefficient. Being able to leverage the automation and configuration capability within OMS gives you the ability to scale, repeat, and precisely and accurately take those actions in confidence in a fully automated manner. And that's what we mean by control. And I'm not just talking about simple actions here. You can orchestrate very complex IT processes using our automation foundation to be able to orchestrate systems that span multiple tiers and against multiple technologies. When you're able to gain visibility and control over your environment, another key important factor that you need to ensure that will ensure your overall success in your IT operation is protection. It's not an option to not have a solid business continuity plan in your environment in this day and age. In fact, this is not something that is an afterthought anymore. You need to constantly exercise drills in ensuring that your recovery plans are solid. Your customers, your end users, whether they're IT workers or actual customers that depend on your system, expect your stuff to be running 24/7. And so having a solid recovery system in place is really important. And OMS provides an excellent automated backup and disaster recovery capability that will give you the assurance that you need to run your business. And this is not just a simple backup capability that I'm talking about here. I'm talking about a full recovery and failover from an entire site that might have been gone down because of things like power issue or even natural disaster, right? And you need to bring that back up in minutes. And when you're talking about running distributed systems and assets that take a dependency on cloud technology, those pieces are pretty complex. So bringing them back up in an orderly manner is really important. So having an orchestrated recovery plan that take actions precisely in the way you have prescribed is a capability that you need. And that's what the Azure Site Recovery capability provides. And I'm going to show you how that works in a moment as well. And finally, security. If you can see and you can act and you can recover from problem, the last part of that is to make sure that you have your environment properly locked down and secure And all the systems are connected today. And you have a large part of your surface area that is actually connected to the outside world. And there are a lot of attackers, malicious assets out there that might be interacting with your assets and your own surface area. Having the visibility to what's going on within your environment and having automated ability to assess the threat that is coming from outside or originating from inside from things like phishing attack is no longer an option. You have to know and you have to be able to protect your assets. And you don't have an option of running in an isolated world anymore. That's a big part of why you need to be running in the cloud, is to have that interconnectivity to conduct commerce and to interact with customers. So security is really not an option, and advanced security analytics is something that OMS provides as well for your hybrid environment. Finally, bringing all these pieces together, from infrastructure to cloud services, and different aspects from security, visibility, protection, and control, they come together at the application level. At the end of the day, all of the infrastructure and cloud platform, what they're doing is to enable applications to run. And so having visibility at the application level, being able to discover and map various applications and their components and how they run on your infrastructure, so that you can understand impacts to failures is crucial to maintain your SLAs and your mean time to recovery. And so we're going to be going over some of the capabilities that we have in OMS that can give you that visibility and control around application as well. Now, without further ado, I want to give you a quick walkthrough of the product. So let's go into the demo. All right. So the first thing that I want to point out is how you can get to OMS and sign up for the service. And it's actually really easy. If you're looking at where my cursor right now is on the address bar, simply go to microsoft.com/OMS. This is the address that you need to remember, microsoft.com/OMS. Click on that. That will redirect you to our main landing site, and you'll see Microsoft Operation Management Suite right here. Right. One thing that I want to point out is that you can create a free account very easily. Now, this free tier never expires. We do have some limitations that we placed on how you can use your free account. That includes, how much data you can send, as well as how long you can access that data. But besides that, you can keep this free account, for as long as you want. And you can open as many as you want as well. So if you need a couple of them for your dev environment, test environment, or just open another one to assess, how it interacts with a new application, you can do that very easily and without limits. So simply go to create a free account, and I promise you, it's only a few clicks, and you can get going really easily. There are other resources that is provided on this website as well. You can see our main capabilities that I've talked about earlier, log analytics for visibility, IT automation for control, backup and recovery for protection, and security and compliance for, security and compliance. And there are other resources that is in this website. I highly recommend watching our 2-minute videos, especially if this is something that you want to share with your colleagues and they don't have a lot of time. There's a 2-minute videos that introduce you to what OMS is about. Now, if you have already opened an account, you can simply click on Sign In, and that will bring you into our overview page. So this is the OMS overview page. And what you see in here are a bunch of tiles. These tiles represent a concept called solutions. Think of solution as packages of data sources, query logics, visualization control, and automated actions combined together into a package to help you manage a particular subject area, problem domain, or workload. So when I talk about problem domain or subject area, change tracking is one such area. You can use our change tracking solution to look at changes that is occurring in your environment, such as what type of new software installation has happened across your data centers and your servers running in the cloud. That's one type of change. You can also track applications that are removed or Windows services that has been added or state has changed as well. So that's a problem domain. In terms of workload, you can see that we have solutions such as SQL assessment, which specifically look at the Microsoft SQL Server as a workload type and give you insights and assessment on how your that particular workload is doing across all of your cloud and data center environment. Now, you can gain access to all these solutions from our solution gallery, which is on the left-hand side on the third tile down. Okay, so when you go into solution gallery, you can see that these are the solutions that we have currently published. Some of them you can see that are coming soon, such as container management. And our aim is to provide hundreds of solutions to you over time. We started out very humbly last year with only a handful of solutions. And you can see that we have well over 20 solutions now in our gallery, with dozens more coming within the next few months. And we're going to open our capability up so that the community can actually participate in providing solutions. And that way, you can operate as one giant IT community, sharing knowledge and capability with one another, and get the benefit of the collective brain power out there to improve your environment. So this is the solution gallery. So let's look at one of the solutions to see how OMS works. Now, one of my favorite solutions is the SQL assessment solutions. I love databases, and so this is a really important solutions for me personally. And you can see that this SQL assessment solution gives you a 360 view across different aspects of your SQL environment. It tracks everything from security to availability, performance, your deployment state, as well as operational and configuration state. You can see that it gives you a score of sorts at the top, which indicates how well you're doing. So you can see that I'm doing pretty well on the right-hand side over here, but not so well in terms of performance and scalability. And it got some recommendation for me that I should be looking at. So I'm going to dive right in to see what it has to say. So you can see that as you drill into the solution, it gives you another view of that, which does a double click and give you a little bit more detail as to why it thinks you should consider this recommendation and what you need to do to improve the state of your systems. Okay, and if you look at the details of what is provided here, you can see that we have a lot of knowledge embedded in each of these recommendations. So you might be wondering, how did we bring these recommendations together? Well, our assessment solutions are actually built by the Microsoft customer support and services team, who interacts with tens of thousands of customers on a monthly basis to troubleshoot their problem, listen to their problem, and remediate their problem. And so they have a wealth of knowledge about what's going on globally around a specific workload that Microsoft provides. And this is how we're able to continually update and provide in-depth insights and assessment to you on an ongoing basis. If you actually look into the details of the objects that are affected by a particular recommendation, you notice that you can actually drill into that particular recommendation and see the details of the configuration data that we actually brought in, which triggered that particular assessment. You might be wondering, whoa, I just switched from a really nice dashboard view into a very data heavy view, right? So if you look at the upper left-hand corner, this is our log search experience. Everything in OMS, all solutions in here are powered by our log analytics capability. And you can see that at the end of the day, all the data are merely property and value pairs. And so this is basically the foundation of our big data system behind the scenes that gives you the ability to slice and dice the data and produce insights really rapidly and deliver that to you at a frequent basis. And if you look into the detail here, you can see that we have collected a number of properties about the server that have triggered the recommendation. And so in this case, the affected object is the database engine, right? And you can see that the value involved in here is the count of this particular conditions that we're looking for. And so it's a pretty simple logic. Now, if you want to get more detail about the specific reasoning and logic behind this particular recommendation, you can see that under the recommendation ID field in here, there's a little view but link over there, which actually you can click on it. And it brings you more detail as to what that is about, and you can and gives you links to the support knowledge article that describe the problem and symptoms in details. So you can study that and decide what you want to do with that particular recommendation. With that said, since I've already described how log analytics power different solutions, let me take a moment to dive into the log search capability so that you can see how it actually operates within OMS. Now, you can drill into log search through solutions that I was walking you through earlier. Another way to get access to your log data is directly through the log search tile up at the upper left-hand corner. So if you click on log search, it brings you into a view where you can basically do free-form queries against all of your data in your environment. Now, in this demo account, I have about 3.5 billion log entries stored in my account. 3.5 billion may sound like a lot, but in our environment is actually quite small. We have tenants that is sending us millions of events per minute. And so having a few billion events is actually pretty small potato. So this is why it's just a demo account. So I'm just going to look for all data in the last 24 hours just to give you a taste of how this works. Now, everything that you do in here in log search is guided by what we call autocomplete. Okay. Now, autocomplete comes in two forms. One is whatever you type in here, we're going to give you inline help and references to guide you and educate you about the commands and the different functions that is available in log search. Okay. It also gives you suggested searches and functions and commands that you can apply as you perform your search. Okay, so I'm not going to do much right now, and I'm just going to type wildcard here or star and just grab all data in the last 24 hours and just bring it back into my environment. You can see that almost near instantaneously, I brought back about 1 million results just like that. This system is immensely fast. And we designed this experience and invested the tremendous amount of engineering resources to give you this quick, intuitive, and fast experience, because we know that when you need to troubleshoot issues, when you need to get insight, you need it quick. You don't want to be sitting around waiting for some batch process to run for, hours or even minutes, just to look at the data and figure that that's actually not what you're looking for, and to adjust again and then wait for minutes again. Right? That's just not going to cut it. So being able to return data really, really quickly is a really important capability that we offer. Now, what you can do with the data that is returned is that obviously you can scroll through them and look through the data, but a really important capability that is a part of OMS is what we call facets or filters that we offered on the left-hand side, on the left pane, right? So one of the default facets that we provide is types. So you can see that in the 1 million result sets that I have returned right now, there are about 16 different types of data that is represented within that 1 million search result sets. Okay, everything from security events to wire data. Wire data are data that we actually sniff off the wire, which tells you communication between endpoints, including latencies, protocol information, and so forth, which is very applicable in many different areas, including security or infrastructure application performance analysis. Windows event, syslog events that is coming from my Linux systems, firewall logs, performance metrics, and so forth. Okay, if you want to look at a particular data type, you can simply click on different fields or links in the experience. Everything in this experience is fully interactive. So if you click on events, you can see that the query is automatically updated to look at type equals to events. And we're now reducing your data sets from 1 million down to 250,000 very quickly and looking at just events. And when you have selected events, you can see that we're just returning the facets that is related to events, which includes computers, the event level, and its state, and so forth. If you want to look at additional facets, you can click on the Add button down here, right? And look for the facets that you want. You can either browse them, right? So you can see that all the different event facets in here, or you can actually type to look for them if you know what it is, right? So say I want to look for an event log, right? When you type that, we'll reduce the result down to the ones that you want. And now the event log facet is added, and you can get a view from which Windows event log am I collecting these Windows event from. Okay. Now, you can also perform aggregation of these data, because looking at 250,000 events, that's pretty hard to actually read, right? And so one thing that you may want to do is perhaps you want to aggregate them by computer. So what you can do is that you can select a computer field. So you can see this computer field right here. You click on the hamburger control. It's called hamburger control. It's like two patty and two buns on each side. Click on that, and you can instruct the system to tell it to group by computers. Okay. So you can see that there are a lot of visual interactive features that is made available for you to guide the query. And you can see that we have updated your query to do a count by computer, and we have sliced those 250,000 events by computer, and showed you that distribution right here. Okay. Now, another way to look at this data set is to look at it across time. Okay. Grouping them by computer is definitely one way to look at the data. But if you want to know how the event volume has been trending over time, what you can do is you can tell the system to group the events together and count them by hour. So I want to look at the event count every hour. And so now what it will do is, rather than just giving you a count by computer in the last 24 hours, it's going to slice the data by the hour and giving you the view on each computer as well. Now you see that some of the computers have lower event volume. And so their metric is like lying at the bottom down here, and it's pretty hard to read, right? So what you can do is you can deselect them, right? And you can add it back in here by just clicking on it. And so you get a much cleaner scale of reading that metrics right here. So you can see that it's only sending a few hundred events per hour for this computer, which is not much. That's why the line chart was like all the way down at the bottom. This capability is what we call metrics. Another way to use metric is to actually operate commands for this against performance counters. So if you want to look at performance counters, you can look for data of type performance. And one way to group this data together is to do an average, or you can do percentile. Let's do percentile. I think it's more fun. Percentile. Measure percentile 99. So I'm looking for the 99th percentile, and I want to count the counter value, and I want to group it by counter name. And I want to slice this data by the hour, so I'm going to do an interval of 1 hour. So what this would do is actually bring back all of the performance counters that I'm collecting right now, right? And calculating the 99th percentile of the value in the by the hour in the last 24 hours. Okay, so you can see that the speed and the power and the flexibility of what I was talking about fully reflected in our log analytics capability inside OMS. Now you can do more with just looking for data and viewing them inside the search experience. What you can do is you can actually save these searches, and I'm going to give this name of 99th percentile counter value. Save it under my save searches. Save it. Okay. Now, one obvious way of using save searches is to recall them. So if I go under favorites, this lists out all of your save searches in here. Okay. And you can click on any save searches, and it'll bring back the result sets that you were looking for in the save search that you have applied. So if I want to go back to the save searches that I have just saved, I remember it's called 99th percentile, right? There it is. If I click on that, it'll bring back the query and show me the value. Now, this is the simple part. What you can do with save searches is to actually use it in what we call custom dashboard. So if I go to my dashboard right here and go into that experience, you can see that this is a custom dashboard that is constructed by a number of different save searches. Okay, and to pin visualizations into this dashboard is very, very simple. Simply click on Customize. Again, look for the save searches that I have created earlier, and just drag and drop it into the dashboard. Okay. And we automatically applied a visualization for you based on the analysis of the query. But if the bar chart that you're seeing right now is not what you're looking for, you can switch the visualization to something else that is a little bit more appropriate. You may want to get a more metro views of how many counters there are, so you can just look at a more just a modern single number way of looking at it, or you can go back to a line chart view that we were looking at in the search space, right? And we'll plot the value out right in here, in line in the dashboard experience. So you can see that this is still fully interactive, right? And if you click on that particular visualization, that again will bring you back into the search view that we were looking at earlier. Okay. Now you notice the view has changed a little bit because in my dashboard, my time interval there is actually looking at data in the last 7 days. So if I switch it back to in the last 24 hours, you'll get a more familiar view of what we were looking at earlier. Okay, so that's dashboard. Now, how do we actually bring in these data in the first place? That's also really simple. If you go back out to the overview page and go over to settings, so you can reach settings using either the settings tile or by clicking on the upper right hand corner, the cogwheel up here, the settings cogwheel. Both of these actions will bring you to setting. Okay, so I'm going to click on this one right here, which will bring me into settings. And if you look at the connected sources tab at the top, this illustrates the different ways in which you can bring in data from different sources. Now, one way to bring in data sources directly from the system, especially when you're just testing out OMS, is to use what we call direct agents. Okay, so we have agents for Windows, and we support both Windows Server and Windows Client. So if you want to use it on your laptop, feel free to download the agent and use it there. We also support Linux as well. So if you want to look at applying that to your Linux environment, you can click on the Linux link, and that will bring you to GitHub to download our plugin for the Fluentd agent. Okay, so what we did here is, rather than inventing yet another agent for Linux system, we decided to take a dependency on a popular Linux agent called Fluentd and write a plugin for that, so that we can contribute to the community, as well as sharing the hard work and fruit of the community as well. And so we can operate together and, for lack of a better word, stand on the shoulder of giants. And so you can see in this page right here, kind of like what Linux flavor we currently support, and the types of data and the different scenarios that we are currently supporting. And we're looking at adding way more than what we're supporting right now for Linux. And we really want to go big and first class within the Linux community, and really offer OMS as a clean cloud service that really can be used for any cloud and any environment. Okay, so that's Linux. Another way to bring in data is to leverage your System Center environment, right? So you can see that System Center Operations Manager is another way in which you can quickly attach to OMS. So if you have System Center 2012 SP1 with the latest UR, or System Center 2012 R2, again with the latest UR, right? If you go to the administration view within your console, you will see that there is a connect to OMS experience there. And it's really just 3 clicks to connect yourself, that environment, to OMS. And you get a lot of enterprise level control by attaching through a system center, including different server groups that you want to opt into, and you don't have to basically onboard all of your servers within your environment to OMS from the get-go. You can also manage your Azure environment as well using OMS. And so one thing that you can do is you can actually point us to your Azure subscription. And within your Azure subscriptions, you can actually configure OMS to read from some of the storage account in your environment there to bring in data. Now, one of the ways in which you can monitor Azure assets is using Azure Diagnostics. And when you have Azure Diagnostic turned on, that data is logged into either table store or blob storage. OMS can actually go out and read from those storage environment and bring in that data, index all of the data for you so that you can just search on that like I was doing earlier, and be able to visualize, slice and dice them very, very easily. You can also directly inject the OMS agents right into Azure VMs. Okay, and we have the Azure VM extension enabled for the OMS agent. Is actually called a Microsoft Monitoring Agent, it's a one-click operations to enable it, or you can use PowerShell to loop through multiple VMs to get it enabled very, very quickly and easily, so that those Azure VMs can send data directly into OMS as well. Now, one of the preview capabilities that we're working on right now is Office 365. You can actually connect to Office 365. And the first scenario we're tackling right now is the management activities. So we can actually bring in audit information about all the account and administrative changes that's happening in your Office 365 environment, and bring that all in and give you that view in a nice dashboard view, as well as giving you free-form searches on top of that data. Now, that is only the first step. We're really looking at doing far more with Office 365, including giving you health monitoring of the services in there, as well as deeper integration with Office clients in the future, and melting and combining that data to give you an end-to-end view of what's going on between your client environment as well as your cloud service that is operated by Microsoft. Okay, so that's a quick overview of how you can actually bring in data. So another popular question that people like to ask is, well, how do I know how much data I'm really bringing in? And is there any way to get to that visibility? The answer is obviously yes. And you can get that view through our usage tile on the lower left-hand corner right here. Right? If you click on usage, what we tell you is a breakdown of how much data you are bringing in the last 24 hours, as well as the last 30 days, right? Broken down by day. And you can see how much you're bringing in by data types, okay? You can also see how well we're doing as a service, illustrating to you, what is our service level SLA right now. So looks like we're doing okay this month so far. And you can also see the latency of how fast we're bringing in the data. You can see that we have been operating pretty well in the last month. We were having some problem in the month of February. So if you actually read the Twitter posts, tweets on Twitter and different blog posts, you can see that people were having issues, and we want to be transparent and open to you on how we're doing. And that's why we're actually opening all this up and giving you the full visibility of how we're doing as a service right in here. You want to get an estimated cost of how much it costs to actually ingest this data at retail price. You can click on the estimated cost link right here, and we'll break down how much does it cost by retention tier based on the amount of data you were collecting in the last 30 days. Now let's look at some more complicated scenario in OMS to see how you can fully leverage the power of OMS to troubleshoot and to analyze your environment. Now, another really popular solutions that customers has indicated that they like is the system update assessment. So the system update assessment solution actually gives you a view of your state of patching across your data centers and clouds. So you can see which servers right now are actually missing critical or security patches, how many of them are actually not patched, in the last 30 days, 90 days, or 180 days. Thankfully, I don't have a lot of that in my environment right now. They're pretty healthy. And if there are any updates that is actually needed right now in your environment, that needs to be applied. Okay. Now, one of the preview features that we're running right now is to actually leverage the automation capability within OMS to help you initiate and orchestrate the patches that is missing in your environment. But I'll go into that later. The first thing that I'm going to do right now is to actually perform a query on what sort of update is actually missing in my environment right now. Okay, so when I click on that tile that looks for security or critical updates, it will bring me back into search to look at what I have missing in my environment. So let me stop that again and run it again. I hope I'm not running into some Wi-Fi issue right here right now. So let me just do a simple search again. Okay. Data are returning, and so what I'm going to do is look at type equals to update. And if I look at the update view right here, it would produce a view on a unique view of what sort of data is actually missing. What patches is actually missing in my environment. Let me see if I can bring it out to the 7 days view to see if I'm getting additional data. Okay, so we come in here. Looks like I'm still missing information in here. Okay, maybe we'll come back to that later on. Now, another capability that I actually want to look at is the site recovery capability that I was talking about earlier. That helps you actually migrate and replicate and orchestrate the recovery of a site that you actually operate, right? So I'm in my Azure portal right now, a view in here, and I have a set of sites and assets that I'm protecting in here right now, okay? So I'm going to go into the Controso SMB vault right here, and if I look at the recovery plans, might be having display issue, perhaps. Okay, let me just try something right now. Just bring it back online. Sign in again. This is live demo, guys. Nothing is fake, as you can see. And again, let me go back into search. Let me go into Azure as well. Okay, looks like things are back. Well, let me complete my story earlier with site recovery. And go down to the Contoso SMB plan down here. Click on Recovery Plan and select the Contoso New York Recovery Plan to take a look at how I'm actually orchestrating my recovery in here. So if you look at what I have in this plan right here, it's actually pretty complicated. It talks about how, in the event of a failover, how I need to shut down my machines, and they're actually grouped into 3 different groups. Okay. Now, the number of servers in here is small because it's a demo environment, but you can see that you can actually group different assets by tiers, bring them down and fail them over in an orderly manner, right? And start them in different sequence. Now you notice that in different steps in here, you can actually add either scripts or manual action into your plan so that if there are custom action that needs to be taken to either validate your recovery or to enable them, you can easily do that via these customization option. Okay. Now, if I go back to the view out here, another set of capabilities that I want to highlight is the upcoming application dependency monitor capability. This is something that is in private preview right now, and I want to emphasize and talk about this capability because it is one of the key pillars that we're enabling for application management. So what Application Dependency Monitor brings to you is to give you a view via network analysis of which applications and their processes is operating on top of your infrastructure, right? It tells you which endpoints are talking to what, right? And through which processes, and gives you a view of their latency, as well as their overall dependency, all in a single graphical view. Now you can see that I have 2 servers that I'm tracking using ADM right now in my environment, and you can see that these are Windows servers with the agent installed on there. But between the 2 of them, you can see that they are talking with one another, but I'm also talking with a whole lot of different endpoints in here. Some of them you can see that are basically blob storages running in Azure because these are Azure VMs. Okay. And so this is just a preview state right now. And what we'll be adding is processes view as well as the performance capability that we are, I was showing you earlier in log search. We'll bring that right into ADM as well so that you can get a unified application mapping view with performance information that can then pivot out to back to log search as you need to drill down into those information either to diagnose them or to assess how your system is performing in a proactive manner. Now I'm at the hour, so I just want to quickly go over what's coming in our roadmap. Now, there's a couple of areas that we will be working on in the future. Top of the priority includes a solution platform, which allows you to build the solution that I was showing you earlier in a really intuitive manner. And so you can actually create your own solution in a drag and drop manner, bring in any log types you want, and basically create your own solutions on the fly. Advanced security analytics. I didn't have much time to go into that area today, but we have actually the advanced security analytics preview running right now, which is a really rich solution that gives you a view of not just security posture, but also contextual information such as network security, as well as identity and access information, all combined together with some proprietary data such as threat intelligence information about malicious sites, correlating them together to give you a unique view of your security posture within your environment. I gave you a glimpse of application monitoring with ADM earlier. We also have another solution that will bring in the application insights data into OMS as well, so that you can correlate response time and exception information, availability information about your application with the ADM data and the infrastructure data that powers the applications. Finally, we're going to be doing much more around Azure manageability, so that you can really manage Azure in a first-class manner with great ease inside the Azure portal. Last but not the least, enterprise configuration and server patching. We're looking to do a lot more, especially in around the area of server patching, so that you can patch your system with confidence, knowing that it will fit the maintenance time window that you need, and the fact that it is application aware, so that it is patching reliably and robustly around the distributed application that you run in your environment. So that's all I have today. Thank you, and I'm going to be taking questions with Matt, I think in another room right outside. So I'm just going to be going out there now.
Awesome job. It's Matt McSpirit here again, waiting for Joe to come through. Hello, sir. Come on in.
Right.
Great job on the presentation there, all about OMS. Great demo as well. Lovely, a lot of detail there for people. So welcome to the interview room, where we grill you with what people have been saying for the last hour or so. We've got quite a few questions coming in, but they shouldn't be too difficult for you. There's a glass of water there for you.
Oh, thank you very much.
A lot of talking on there. So we'll get straight into the questions. Is OMS applicable for non-System Center managed private environments?
Absolutely, absolutely. System Center is think of it as a shortcut. Mm-hmm. Right? If you have System Center, you can onboard to OMS really quickly. But if you have an environment that is not currently managed by a System Center, you can definitely manage with OMS directly as well.
Right.
Now, today you can either install our agents on your server directly, and you can download that agent directly from our portal. But we have a lot of plans to integrate with other on-premise management tools that is out there today. So one example is that through our FluentD plugin, you can actually pull in Nagios alerts into OMS. So if you use Nagios today, you can already pull in alerts into OMS, and we look to broaden the amount of data coverage with different tools. Things like Logstash is very popular, right? We want to basically enable those capabilities as soon as we can.
And if you're a small organization, you just want to kick the tires with this initially, maybe this is the first time you've seen OMS, and I've got to admit, the first time I saw it, I was just blown away with how slick the dashboards are, how fluid, how easy it is to use, and the speed at which you can get value from it. And we'll cover those through some of the questions we've got shortly. But in terms of that deployment, you don't have to deploy it company-wide. You could just select a small number of servers initially, deploy that agent, and start getting information into the service. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing approach.
Absolutely,
okay. Yeah. So prerequisites. So the question was from Alan. What are the prerequisites for the OMS assessment tools? And the prerequisites for OMS in general, I guess, as well. What are some of those?
Well, in terms of prerequisite, it really depends on the way in which you want to bring in data and what sort of action you want to take. Okay, so if you obviously want to bring in data from Linux system, then you have to download our Linux plugin. Right. You should go to GitHub, look up our documentations to see what are the supported Linux flavor there. Right, and roll with that. But if you want to manage, let's say, VMs in Azure, right? We pretty much cover everything there. And you simply use the VM extension, get it enabled on that VM, and off you go.
Is that a deployment time thing you can do, or is that after deployment?
Both.
Right. Okay. You've got flexibility there, so that's good. Right. So that's one of the nice things about OMS is it's not just about on-premises technology. It's about wherever your workload may be. It could be in your cloud. It could be in Azure. It could be in AWS, vCloud, whatever it may be. You've got the flexibility.
That's right. We're really serious about coming to where you are, and that is a fundamental principle that is carried by our team.
Right. And OMS as a suite, it isn't just, although we spend a lot of time on the insights portion, it is, as you mentioned through some of your earlier slides, it's also Azure Backup, it's Azure Site Recovery, it's the automation components as well. So there's lots within the overall suite and the offering that can really help you transform IT and management across hybrid infrastructure and the cloud. So
absolutely. 1 hour just doesn't do it any justice.
No. I thought we were going to have a challenge fitting it all in, and even if you split it 15 minutes for each one, you would only scratch the surface. But it's good that we delved into the insights, because I think as a starting point, you can get started for free with that 500 meg daily upload, and it's so easy to deploy. And there was a question relating to that. How quick is it really to get OMS up and running? I don't know if I think you went through some of the screen where you sign up, but it's not. It doesn't take long, does it?
Right. So let me tell you a story. We were in Ignite last year in May, right? And one of the attendees there actually walked up to our booth and asked us, like, well, what is this OMS thing, right? He runs an environment with about 500 servers in there, right? And he said that he would give it a shot. And literally at our booth, he remote desktop back to his environment, right? And basically onboarded about 200 servers to try this out in under 15 minutes.
Right. So once you're onboarded, there's a little bit of time for the data to trickle into the service. It's not instantaneous. You wouldn't start seeing results. But beyond that, the setup time is relatively short.
Right. We have a few solutions in the past that requires batch processing.
Right.
But we have been actively moving to using search-based analytics in more recent updates. So you can pretty much see data coming in basically like even during initial onboarding fairly quickly. I'm not talking about like minutes, I'm talking about, like tens of seconds after you onboard, you should start seeing results.
Really? Wow. I mean, this is one of the key things about consuming a service like OMS. And if you think about what it would take to stand this up in your environment and the power and the horsepower that's going into crunching all of that data so you can get the beautiful analytics, the dashboards, the insights, which is the most important part for the consumer. To stand that up in your own premises would be phenomenally, it would be time consuming, but it also require a lot of horsepower. And we're doing all of that for you in the cloud, and that's the beauty of the solution. Are there plans, and you may or may not be able to tell us, to bring OMS, or in brackets, OMS-like features to on-premises via Azure Stack? Now, obviously, it does support on-premises workloads already, so I suppose the question is more around what's the story with Azure Stack going forward, and that's a question from Aiden.
I see. We definitely have that intention. Azure Stack is a great platform that we're building right now as we speak.
Still early though with Azure Stack at this point.
And so it's definitely our intention as that matures to bring our stack with the hope of running it on-premise. I think the biggest challenge there is how we can simplify the operations to operate that service on Azure Stack, so that we don't just throw you like a 2,000-page operation manual to run that. And so that there's some technical challenge involved, but definitely we have that intention.
Yeah, okay, that's a good answer. I mean, and stay tuned as things develop. It's very early days. on Azure Stack, and you'll hear more about Azure Stack a bit later on. It's the last session of the day. Not that it will cover OMS in any form of detail, but it certainly will give you an idea of its current status in development. It's still got a little way to go yet, but the guys are thinking about all these things and how integrated we can make them. So or is the Azure Security Center, is it or will it be a part of OMS and the integration there? Any plans on that?
So you would notice if you've been keeping up with our blog posts, we have an update for the OMS Security and Audit solution.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that solution actually now is built by the same team that built Azure Security Center.
Right, nice, okay.
Okay, and you can actually see that in the updated solution. There's a link out to Azure Security Center as well. So we're melding the concept of detection and posture and analysis, right, between the two capabilities into a consistent form. Now, there is differences though, because hybrid environment with assets on-premise, the variation of that is so much bigger, right? Because in Azure, we can standardize on things and the environment is more finite, right? But when we actually reach out to your environment, that permutation of assets and complexity just explodes. So the OMS hybrid security solution is designed to handle that. And we're taking that approach, trying to do it in a mindful manner that is focused on doing hybrid. And so we want to keep it consistent. We want the security subject matter expertise that is driving those two solutions to be coming from the same team, right? But hybrid will be kept distinct from an Azure-only solution.
Okay, now you mentioned updates to the service. In a recent update, we're starting to see integration and overlap with the security center. Updates and the cloud service in general is a big factor. It's a nice way to ensure that you're always getting the latest features in the service, but you as an administrator who's accessing OMS don't have to do anything. So I don't have to patch OMS. Right. You guys all handle that. So that's a big benefit for people out there, and certainly a big positive on feedback in terms of adopting that kind of service. I don't need to go and roll out updates to my operations manager or whatever it may be on premises. I can just, the cloud is always evolving, which is good.
Right.
In terms of collecting data, a question came in with regards to how it interacts with and collects data from my applications and my on-premises workloads and wherever they may be. Does it affect performance of my apps much or create any security risk?
So let's talk about performance first. The team that has built OMS, especially on the insights portion of that, right? We're a very experienced monitoring team, right? So one thing you would notice is that the selection of the agents, right? We didn't invent a new agent really to do that. We are using the Microsoft monitoring agent, which is the agents that we have used for many years for SCOM.
Yeah.
The reason for that is we have done a lot of optimization to minimize footprints, to minimize impact on your system. And that took years of engineering to master, right? All that we have done is to add a thin layer of connectors on top of that agent to talk to the cloud, right? So how that agent actually operates within your server environment and how it interacts with your assets, right? That code base have taken years to mature. And if you're using SCOM today, you know that is reliable and you know that has a minimal footprint and that wouldn't change.
It's sufficient, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in terms of security around your environment, right? The architecture to interact with the cloud service, it has taken the same security approach with added a layer of tenant-based encryption on top of that to ensure that every communication, whether it's from agent to service or inter-service component communication, everything is encrypted on a tenant basis.
Right. Cool. Yeah. Okay, excellent. So very detailed answers. To the questions we haven't got time for, I'm sure we'll get back to you on those. The team are working away on helping answer those for you. But that wraps up the Q&A with Joe. Thank you very much for your time now. and for your great session and great demo, very end-to-end demo on looking at the insights and security within OMS. A quick reminder, send us your pictures on Twitter from where you're watching from. You need to be following at ms_IT Pro and use the hashtag TechNetVC. Send us some interesting places where you're watching from, not just your desk, but anywhere you can find that's fun and interesting. Let us know. The chances to win prizes there. And your next session, drum roll, is Azure Fundamentals with somebody you may be familiar with, Mr. Rick Claus. You'll see him on the left in one form. You'll see him on the right in a very different form. If we want to just... Oh, no, we can't zoom in. Can we zoom in? No, we can't zoom in. There it goes. No, we can't zoom in on his face. Never mind. You'll be able to zoom in at home. Very different, Rick, without the hat there. That's what he's hiding under there, if you weren't sure. So, over to you, Rick. Thanks for your participation, and we will see you after the session. Enjoy.